We're at Vibrant Performance HQ, hanging out with my man Ryan, and it's a beautiful Q50. Ryan's had other exhausts in the past that just never really fit everything that he's looking for. He keeps advancing with his car like everybody else. We usually go lower to the ground. It made contact on sections on the ground. So now we have a whole host of awesome Vibrant Performance parts, and we are gonna make him a one-off, slick Mike GT spec custom exhaust for it. Off the bat, we've made an Axleback for him past, and now going into the future, we're connecting it all the way up. We want to do a full catback now. So we've already removed the two front flanges to get rid of this style flange, which I don't like. Went with a V-band flange, which I do like. So we have two V-band flanges up at the front, and then we also have our previous Axleback setup that also has a pair of V-band flanges. Since Ryan's entered the stance life, he's been ruining V-band flanges. So we're kind of just gonna cut everything up at the rear, change where the V-bands sit back there, and we're gonna make a full custom exhaust up to that. We're gonna be going with a nice 2.5-inch X pipe made from Vibrant Performance's new brushed stainless. These ones have longer legs on them. They come in 90 degrees, 25, 45s. You can get them in a bunch of different shapes and sizes, which takes a lot of work out of the fabrication process, honestly. Being a fabricator, like majority of other fabricators, we usually just buy one bend and we're like, hey, this is two of these. We can make a bunch of these out of this. So it's all up to you. That's what's cool with fabrication. We are in where magic, I feel magic happens here. So we're going to pull everything off of the car and we're gonna start laying on some nice new components, flex pipes, X pipes, V-bands, tubing, bends, mufflers, because Ryan doesn't want it too loud. We're gonna probably be going with some nice 18-inch bottleneck style resonators. We might try and fit some quiet flows. He's like a subtle gentleman. He doesn't want it too loud. We might try and fit some quiet flows, but again, now we're gauging it. You get into, he wants it super quiet, but we also don't want to put mufflers on that he's hitting on the ground all the time, hitting off the speed bumps, and now I got to come back and keep making more exhaust systems for him, which I don't mind, but his wallet probably will. So other than that, I'm going to stop talking. We're going to get down to business. All right, so we got the full system tore off of the vehicle and we're back at the fab bench. Just unbox some parts to get to our next step. So right off the bat, G35s, 350Zs, all Q50s, they all have a front Y pipe that has two flex pipes on it. In general, flex pipes are put into the exhaust system just to prevent any damage to other components. More notoriously, it's used in a front wheel drive application. Like we got a cool little Honda Civic in the corner over there. They usually use like a donut, spring bolt, and graphite gasket. Vibrant also has it in the catalog as a replacement pieces for your J-spec header. It just needs the flex. On a front wheel drive motor, every time you're accelerating, the motor's kicking back and forth, back and forth. On a rear wheel drive motor, every time you're accelerating, it's kind of pivoting. So it's not necessary in every single rear wheel drive application to have it, but in my opinion, if a factory application has it on it, probably should go back with them. It's just, in general, they put it there for a reason. So if a system has a flex pipe, I highly recommend putting a flex pipe back in. There's a lot of different styles. This is a turbo flex, so it has an interlock liner. This is pretty much the standard that I use. I wouldn't go anything less than this. There's another style that has an open bellow, but as soon as you have a turbocharged or a high heat or high flowing application, it'll blow it out and it just ends up leaking out of the liner. Then there is the style that you'll see in turbo manifolds, which is like, it's called an interlock flex pipe on Vibrant's catalog, and you see that in turbo manifolds and stuff like that, because you wouldn't want to use this in a Subaru up pipe or an exhaust manifold that feeds a turbocharger, because just in case if anything were to break off of this, it's now going to go into your turbocharger. So there's a next style up from this. Ryan will put a picture in, he's good with that stuff, of the fancier flex pipes that are made for exhaust manifolds, turbo up pipes and stuff like that. So if there was a failure with the flex pipe, the bellow just fails. It's not throwing foreign objects into your turbocharger, which is like, no, you don't want that. That's a no-go zone. My tech tip with these flex pipes, when you look inside of it, there's 100 layers. they are very tricky to weld. If you're fabricating, you weld these flex pipes, they are tricky to weld. So I'm gonna show you my trick that I've kind of found through the years that makes these a lot easier. My first step that I do is I weld this flex pipe. I fuse all of these layers together so that it's one more consistent bead. Then I'm gonna brush it with the wire. This thing's it's gonna be a brand new man by the time I'm done with it. These things are gonna look like a whole different animal. And then when we go to fabricate it onto the tubing, this weld is so much easier when you have all of these pieces welded together, because you're not, within your TIG welding, you'll notice it. You got 100 layers and the earth just wants to fly all over the place. It just eliminates that completely. It's another step, but it's a step that I find that really does help. And that's what fabricating is. Sometimes all the little steps for prepping everything are gonna yield you the results that you want. Everything needs to be perfect, cut perfect, sand perfect, everything's gotta be perfect, all right? So, enough jibber jabbering, let's get back to business. So we're at the bandsaw in the shop, and in the bandsaw, we have a brand new part from Vibrant Performance. Been using their products for over a decade now. Other people who've been using their products could probably already visibly see the first major difference. It's the same tubing, but this is a classic tubing off of the bends, how they normally come. You would have seen in the little clips before, we have some new bends on the table as well. This is just an unfinished bend, I would call it, when you're comparing it to a tube like this. This is the same 304 stainless material, same gauge thickness, same everything, but with these new lengths, they're full brushed finish. So they've done the extra cleaning stage for you. So just like the aluminum bends, how they come out of the box, nice and polished, they're ready to weld. So pretty much you're gonna make your cuts, you're gonna clean up your surfaces, wipe it down with your favorite degreaser, whether it's acetone, spray 9. I'm a big spray 9 guy, but whatever you want to use, you want to degrease all your oily fingerprints off of it, and we're gonna have some nice, weldable, clean material to rock with. So I'm super happy with this. One of my favorite things about Vibrant Performance is they're constantly developing the products with the consumer's input. From myself, from other guys like Tanner and tons of other people in the industry, they kind of see and ask us what we like, what we don't like, what's cool, what's not cool. So they've noticed the trend is lots of people are using a brush finish, or I honestly personally take all of these tubes and I will spend hours brush finishing it by hand myself. So for now on, I'm just getting this because that's gonna save me so much labor and my customer labor moving forward. So we welded up some stuff. We got a fresh batch of iced coffee, so we're ready to rip again. The shop's AC too, so this is like very luxurious. Normally I'm like deep in sweat by now. But we got our flex pipes welded, V-bands welded. Those are up in the car. I'm gonna grab my V-band, I'm gonna grab some bends, and we're gonna walk over and we're gonna talk about a couple things. All right, so we got a fresh canvas right now. So we got our little flex Johnnies up there, everything's where we need it to be. We leave a little bit of playroom in there for everything. The X pipe. It's a term that's thrown around a lot. Some people know, some people don't. I'm going to try and explain it the best way that I can. They're used in a lot of different applications. Technically, they're used in every application. When you have more than one cylinder, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, not 9, 9's a weird number, but 10, 12. In general, you're always gonna have an engine that's going to have reverse firing banks. So, on this application, it is a V6. We have 3 cylinders one side, 3 cylinders on the other side. When we look back at the factory exhaust, we would have noticed something very similar to this that does the exact same thing. So it does a Y pipe up in the front, and then it does a single longer tube to another Y pipe. So therefore, it is technically an X pipe. What that is doing is it's taking both exhaust banks and it's crossing them over. Your engine is a giant air pump. It's just moving air in and out, in and out, over and over. The X pipe, crossover pipe, Y pipe, all of these things in general, even an H pipe, all these terms get thrown around in exhaust. What they do is they balance the flow of exact manifolds, right? So you have 3 on this side, 3 on this side. If you have a V8, you got 4 on that side, 4 on that side. The crossover is going to help actually pull exhaust gas out of the engine through the scavenging effect There's a lot of stuff that you can get into, but the scavenging effect is a point in between the cylinders where it's just chilling. There's nothing really happening in between the firing orders. So it's actually pulling exhaust gas through the X pipe, helping promote lower end torque, because now it's helping the engine move air easier. That's all it really comes down to. Is it going to make or break things? Yes or no? Sound, I feel off the bat, no matter what, if you don't have a crossover, you're always going to get a more reflective, reverberating kind of sound, almost like a through hull exhaust on a boat. When you got a big V8 with their through hull exhaust, you can almost hear the reverberation. You can almost hear the cylinders adversely firing. When you go with an X pipe, you get a lot smoother, cleaner tone to it. Every single factory application has an X pipe or a Y pipe or some form of crossover. Nothing, to my knowledge, runs like a true dual setup where you're just going to have the individual banks. I can go on and on and on for hours. I probably should stop, but in general, you want an X pipe. You want a crossover. You have a 4-cylinder. You have a header. It goes 4 into either 2 to 2 to 2 to 1, 4 to 2 to 1, 4 to 2 to 2 to 1. You can do a couple different ways, but in general, they're always scavenging and collecting back to each other, whether it's a motorcycle exhaust, anything. You always want the engine to have all of the banks coming into a collector. It's going to promote a scavenging effect, and it's going to help the engine breathe easier, and it makes it sound sicker, which is what people care about. So if that's all you care about, do a crossover. Whether it's long, small, just like the factory system on this technically had a long X pipe because it had a Y pipe up in the front, long straight section, another Y pipe. It's just a long X pipe. So after talking for 2 years about an X pipe, let's get back to work. So in general, I got a couple stands here, but I just eye a lot of stuff. I know I want my X pipe generally centered somewhere over here. So I have a little 45 bend that's going to be coming out of here. And then when you look at the trajectory of these, they're pretty much straight to each other. So I need to pick a point at which I want to go to. Do I want to measure from here to this point or from here to this point? So I just cut a little straight section that I kind of guesstimated just by looking up in there. I think it should be good. Only one way to find out, right, dude? Just gotta send it. So I'm just gonna throw 2 tacks on this. I shouldn't have to break it, but I always just do 2 just in case. A little bit of prep on the tube, untouch the bend. That's bend right out of the package. So that gets rid of another thing that people always really hated is when you have these longer legs of a mandrel bend, you always get a deformity in between. So you'd end up cutting it and then it wouldn't be round. It's a thing that happens a lot, like especially making header tubes and stuff like that. So these are really nicely mandrel bends because they keep the same uniform size all the way through the bend, no matter what way you smooth it, rotate it, right? So that just shows how nice this stuff is. This straight tube, that's all on you and the bandsaw and your prep. So if your bandsaw is not cutting straight, you better have a nice fat belt sander disc to make it straight, because prep is everything. So now I'm at the deciding factor of how do I want to, no matter what, like obviously I'm gonna weld this. That's easy to weld. That's gonna be welded to that, no problem. This, I'm probably gonna weld this X pipe out first. This is my little present I brought for Ryan. I cut this up on the weekend instead of cutting it here because I'm in a foreign environment. I don't have all my tooling here. So I thought be safe and get this made for already before I came here. So it's looking proper. I've showed it off a bunch already. Now I should probably clean it up, throw my 4 tacks all the way around on it, put the plugs on it, weld it all the way up. So I think that's the step that I'm at now, because I know that this pipe, I'm pretty happy with it. I can weld this all up. I can weld that joint to that. After that, I can come back over. I can tack this onto there, tack it on my flex where I want it. Now I'm gonna make this side fit it, and then that's my front X pipe. So we're underneath the car and we're deciding what mufflers we want to go with. And that is a common thing that I get asked all the time. what mufflers go on X, Y, Z, Lambo, Honda, Nissan. Everything is different. Every application is different, and I feel it takes experience playing with these applications to give you an answer, and the answer is different because what every person likes is different. What I like, what Ryan likes, what Kyle likes, all completely different things. So for this application, we're gonna break it down for Ryan, his car, his wants and needs. So again, this is Ryan's Q50. It has a Nissan 3.5 liter. So they are notoriously not the best sounding, and that's usually because people just take everything off and they want attention because that's what people do. This factory system had flex pipes and then 2 bottleneck style resonators. And a bottleneck style resonator is what I'm holding in my hand right now. And we'll move over to the fab bench and I'll explain a couple differences between some popular muffler options. At the end of the day, how you get performance, how you get sound, is you end up going with a straight through exhaust system. All good manufactured mufflers and components, they have no restriction. They're completely straight through assembly. So right here, we have a bottleneck style resonator. Back in the day, people would call them cherry bombs. We have Canadian Tire here in Canada. You go to your local Canadian Tire and you have a thrush glass pack or a cherry bomb. Very similar idea behind it, except this is way, way, way better because it's made of stainless steel. It has way more sound packing material in it, so it can actually dampen more sound in comparison to other manufacturers that make the same similar product. Then we go to the ultra quiet resonator, and this is literally my Tabasco sauce. I put this thing on everything. It is one of my most universally used mufflers across the board. In general, all mufflers do the same thing, especially vibrant mufflers. They're all straight through. So that's the most important thing for getting performance out of your products. They're all straight through design, so you're not getting any restriction in your exhaust system. The sound dampening is now done by the fiberglass material in the bodies. A smaller muffler is always going to be louder in comparison to a larger muffler that has more sound packing in it. Again, these ultra quiets are great mufflers. They do a crazy amount of sound dampening for the size muffler. It's just good to know that all of these mufflers do different things. So now after leaving this video, you should be able to tell your friend, if they have these 2 mufflers, you can at least be going, regardless, whether it's a Civic, a Lamborghini, a Porsche, anything. This muffler will always be quieter than the smaller bottleneck muffler, and then we can go down the scale to a straight piece of pipe. This is the loudest, obviously. There's no sound dampening. We have a small amount of sound dampening. Now we have a decent amount more sound dampening. Someone's got to tell me to stop talking because I can just go forever. Ryan, that's your new job. Other than that, I'm going to do what I'm good at, and we're going to keep playing with tubes. So on that note, these don't fit in the application. When we started that, I was hanging out in the car with this bottleneck. I already have my pipe cut how I want it. I'm going to prep it up, tack those 2 same length tubes to my V-bands, start throwing it up back in the car, and we're making our way all the way to the back. So let's keep rocking. We got the front pipes all welded up. Got our X pipe, V-band flanges, our 2 flex pipes on there. We finished welding the 2 V-bands to it, the 2 little 45 elbows I got kicked up. Added a little bit of flair to it for my boy Ryan. It's just my initials. I just kind of put it on. Usually when I travel and I do cool jobs like this, I bring a tag with me. So that's kind of my thing. That's what I do. I'll bring a tag and make it a memory to be marked for the occasion, right, Ryan? So we're gonna toss this up back on the Q50, and I have my resonators underneath the bench. So I'm just gonna put this up on there just for fun, get it off the table. Put the resonators up here, finish welding those, and then we just have small sections into the existing Axleback that we got going on. We're gonna be ready to rock. A commonly overlooked thing in a lot of exhaust systems that I see all the time is proper hangers, whether it's on the muffler structures, the midpoints of tubing, wherever the case may be. every single factory system is going to have rubber isolators on the chassis that have points to add rod to put to your exhaust. You don't use all around that you'd use to hold your water heater up on the wall or something along that. Like, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen house siding. I've seen pretty much anything but hanger rods I've seen as hanger rods. Vibrant offers a pre-made hanger rod that has the male-female kind of positions to it, so it can actually lock itself in the rubber isolator. I'm gonna bring you over to the car and it'll make a lot more sense of it. But we have one that I've already created and bent for it, and then we're gonna walk through how I turned this into this. So let's run on over to the car. We've got our mid pipes all mocked up there, and this system only had 2 factory rubber hangers at the rear. So we got one isolator here and one isolator here, and then pop, and then they kind of pop in and they hold super tight. They offer them in a couple different sizes. You can get like 1/2 inch, 3/8. It all comes down to the hanger size. Majority of them are like a 1/2 inch hanger rod, so that it's a really tight fit, because that's what you want. So we've already modified this one to fit that muffler, and it's looking pretty slick. So I'm gonna do the same with this one. Bam, it's a beautiful thing. How cool is that? If tools don't make you happy, we can't be friends. Look at that. Come on, come look right at that. What's the little nookie there? So I just put that little extra bend to get the full 90, and then I kicked it to be the same radius as the Resonator. It's a flex, dude. It's a flex. So now we're at the final part of the system, which is now going to be called the Axleback. We've done the catback, now we're doing the Axleback, which is going to be the 2 rear mufflers. It's very personal, depending on how much sound you want. Some people, again, want lots of attention, so they'll run no mufflers at the back, or the smallest excuse of a muffler. And again, that is all application and customer specific, in my opinion. Especially on a car like a G35 350Z, which this Q50 has the same engine as. It's very common that they run no mufflers on it. I do not recommend doing that, because then you end up being a meme. It happened to the Civics many years ago, but Civics kind of have a clean slate now because the G35s and 350Zs fully replaced them in the meme category. That is why we previously chose to go with these ultra quiet resonators. Again, that's why I put them on a lot of applications. You come into size restraints. This car being a 4-door, no problem, we could fit a full body, again 14 inch by like 8 or 9 inch is kind of an industry standard of mufflers. You could fit that on this car, no problem. But if it was like a 350Z or a 370Z, the limitations of space that you have is a lot more tight. And that's the kind of setup that we went with on Ryan's car, which is what I do on those a lot. I call it like the butterfly effect. We kind of put these mufflers on a little angle out the back, have the bends coming out of the mufflers, and then we used a really nice full 304 stainless 4-inch dual wall edge tip that Vibrant also offers, just to match the same quality of the components. That's why all the welds are coming out nice, the flange is well nice. As long as you keep all the same components together, you're gonna yield the best results that you can get. On that note, we're avoiding all trombones, and we'll explain how we did that on the back of the vehicle using these ultra quiet resonators. So we'll head over there now. So these are our Axleback setups, and as I mentioned at the bench there, I put them on kind of like a butterfly angle. It's the best way that I kind of describe it, just because the mufflers sit on an angle at the back of the vehicle. So I'll just kind of slip these in there home quick, hopefully easily. Perfect. Obviously that's a rough representation because we don't have the pipe here connecting into there. That's what we got to connect up now. And that's how it's going to kind of sit on the back of the vehicle. We're going to make sure the tips line up to the bumper, everything nice. If I just let it go, it kind of just falls away. So I'll just leave that hanging out there. But that gives you a rough visual representation of how it's going to be laid out in the car. And we're going to make the sections connect into this now. is a wrap on Ryan's Q50 one-off custom bespoke exhaust with a nice smooth X-pipe crossover utilizing all of the brand new brushed stainless bends and straight tubing offered by Vibrant Performance, one of my favorite companies ever. So let's get underneath the car and check it all out. We've been through back and forth a bunch of different components, so I feel if you've been watching, you're already up to code. You're up to code with what we got going on now. So we're just gonna do a quick run through again in case you haven't and you're just tuning in. We have two brand new V-band flanges up at the front off of the factory catalytic converters into two brand new interlock stainless steel flex pipes. Out of that, we go into my custom made X-pipe crossover. All the piping's 2.5-inch stainless steel. Be more than enough flow for this 3.5. Put a little tag on the X-pipe. After that, a pair of Vibrant V-band flanges right after the X-pipe. Straight sections into two bottleneck resonators, 18-inch body resonators, so the larger of the bottleneck resonators. Keeping everything up as high as we can because this thing's got a nice stance on it. It's got a really nice look. So it is a little low. It's not crazy low, but our main goal was to bring the exhaust as high up into the chassis that we could, because driving around Toronto and other areas, the roads aren't safe out here. So we gotta be prepared for it. After all the tucked up tubage, we got another pair of our previously put in V-bands, two of my favorite mufflers, the ultra quiet resonators, out into the tailpipes, into two 4-inch dual wall stainless steel tips. Every single piece of this is offered in the Vibrant catalog. So just like me, you can gather all of these parts yourself and you can fabricate an exhaust for any application. This one just happens to be Q50. Awesome. I think Ryan really wants to hear how his car sounds because we almost forgot to do the outro because we're all like, let's hear the car. So we're gonna bring it down, we're gonna take a listen to it.